as a general disclaimer, so to say. As you know, this was the proposal put forward by the Commission last Friday. President von der Leyen presented it, indeed, in a statement that you may have seen. Of course, we cannot prejudge wherever we will be landing at the end of the day on this 20th package of sanctions against Russia. As you know, this is now being discussed with the Member States, and there could be obviously still changes, adjustments to this proposal. So just a general caveat before going then more specifically into your questions. Siobhan.
Of course, as Paolo just said, we really cannot comment further beyond what was mentioned in the President's statement last Friday when the package was adopted by the College. Of course, when it comes to circumvention, this is the focus of the Commission's work with the Member States. In every package, we propose additional measures where we see that there are loopholes. This is a work that we do jointly with the Member States in the Council, of course. So, I cannot go into detail of what's in this latest package, but of course it will tackle some of the circumvention that we have seen. And on the enforcement, of course, just to reiterate, the enforcement is always with the Member States. That is the way this works. There's nothing new about that. And they are the ones responsible for implementation and enforcement. So this, as with every other package, will still be in the hands of the Member States to implement. And there should be no surprises in that because, of course, the packages are always adopted by unanimity in the Council. So there's nothing that should come as a real surprise to them in terms of implementation.
Of course, implementation is with the Member States. It appears that a huge swath of the sanctions, particularly the anti-circumvention part of it, is not properly implemented because otherwise we wouldn't see all kinds of Western, European-made electronics showing up in the remains of the drones and ballistic missiles that terrorize the Ukrainian people. Are you thinking about maybe starting infringement procedures against member states who are not properly implementing the sanctions policy of the EU? And secondly, my first question on the shadow fleet was unanswered. If I'm, for example, a Greek owner of oil tankers, I don't know what to do with them. I'd like to sell them to a friendly guy who says he would like to use it and not ask too many questions about it. How is this being dealt with? How is the sale of ships to the shadow fleet currently being treated under the sanctions package? And is the Commission satisfied with how member states are implementing this? Thank you.
Well, more in general, Oliver, we're taking the enforcement of the sanctions very seriously, and also the circumvention of the sanctions is being taken extremely seriously. And if you look at these series of packages of sanctions, that has precisely been the focus. We've been also learning from the various packages, learning and seeing, observing wherever there are circumventions, notably, and tackling those, right? We have an envoy, as you mentioned also, Mr. O'Sullivan, who's tasked and mandated to look into very specifically the enforcement and anti-circumvention of these sanctions, because obviously, as these sanctions are put on the table, there is, of course, attempt to circumvent it. So that's been precisely the focus of it. And what is also worth reminding in this context is the impact, the concrete impact, and many may be still circumvented, and you may still have issues of enforcement. But the fact is, if you look back, is alone in 2025, if you look at Russia's fiscal revenues from oil and gas, they have dropped by 24% in 2025 compared to the way before. And this will be the lowest level of revenues for Russia since the war began. Interest rates in Russia stand at 16%, and the inflation remains high. And this is a clear result of the enforcement of the sanctions. There may be also other factors contributing to it, but what is important to retain is sanctions are biting, sanctions are having an effect.
Yes, it's also in the package of sanctions. The main element in the package is the full ban on maritime services for Russian tankers. I mean, if this is approved, the price cap on Russian oil will cease to apply within EU jurisdiction. There will be a full ban. And I remember that you were a very strong advocate of the price cap for a long time, you know, the unity of the G7 countries. So what reasons prompted this change of strategy? Have you concluded that the price cap was a failure, that it didn't meet the expectation and you need to do something else, something bigger and stronger? Thank you.
Thanks, Jorge, for the question. I unfortunately cannot share more detail until the package itself has been presented today in the Council, and I think we can provide more follow-up after that.
But it's clearly a strengthening of the sanctions, right, Jorge? I mean, until now, with the price cap, you will still have exports of oil. With this maritime ban services, any export of oil from Russia will be made even more difficult. So that's the logic behind, without going now further into details, but that's the logic underpinning this proposal.
Two technical question. I hope you can answer to that. To them on the ban on services. Would you need the agreement of the G7 to implement it? Because it's in the statement it was not clear, at least for me. And the second point on the anti-circumvention instrument, what are the procedure should, after the proposal of the Commission, do you need unanimity in the Council? How does it work? Because it was adopted in 2023. I don't remember the technicalities. Thank you.
So, on your second question, on the anti-circumvention tool, I've been told it's a tool, not an instrument, and I think that's legal speak either way. On this one, this is part of the package. So the whole package will be adopted via unanimity in the Council, as is always the case with every package. Your first question, sorry, if you can just remind me what it was. I got a bit wrapped up in your second question.
The need for the G7.
The need for the G7. I think in this case, when it comes to any of our sanctions packages, we're always coordinating with our partners. We're always discussing. And that is just our modus operandi, whether it be with the UK, with Switzerland, you know, our partners are always, we're always engaging with them. I think I can't really say much beyond that for the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's another example where they will be more effective if implemented with the G7. As such, they do not need the G7, but they would be more effective. And that's why precisely we are working with the G7 also on some of these measures.
Yes, two questions. The first one on the price cap. The idea for the price cap was to maintain a stability in the global markets, you know, that Russia would be allowed to transport a degree of oil, but at the same time it would be denied another degree. So have these fears of markets instability disappeared from you? That's why you think you're confident that you can move on with the full ban? And second, when you talk about the G7, do you mean the G7 or the G6? Because last year when you turned the price cap into a dynamic mechanism, you did it without the United States. So it was effectively a G6 measure. So are you looking at the G6 as well this time? Thank you.
Ideally G7. We always try to go for G7. Jorge. And on the fears of market instability, when we put forward these proposals, we look into what can be possible impacts. So clearly there must have been changes in the assessment if we put this forward. And we will close with the sanctions here. Otherwise, we need a dedicated technical briefing on this, but we prefer to have that technical briefing when we land the package, hopefully very soon, with the agreement of the Council.
I have a question about the Munich Security Conference. 14 commissioners are going to attend that on behalf of the EU Commission. I mean, could you tell me if the President believes that's a good use of their time and EU budget money for them all to be there, more than half the college? Thank you.
Listen, it's an important meeting, and you have better information than I do, Henry. I don't have the final list of commissioners attending, but there are several commissioners attending indeed. As you know, this is a moment where many leaders, many representatives at ministerial level gather from across the world. So it's an opportunity also to discuss beyond the program of the Munich Security Conference. There's the opportunity to engage, to discuss, to have bilateral meetings, trilateral meetings, and that's precisely how it's perceived by the members of the college who are participating at this conference. It goes beyond the conference in itself. It's really the opportunity to engage, to meet many leaders and representatives of ministries across the world in a single place.